Hey everybody, what's good? It's your girl Composy back with another video for That's It, That's All, That's It, That's All. This video is all about real time with Bill Maher tonight, May 17th, and I'm just kind of gonna take it piece by piece and throw my little interjections in there. The reason why I decided, to go ahead and start reviewing Bill Maher's show on Fridays because I am a longtime watcher of Bill Maher. I've been watching him since, back in the day when he was doing Politically Incorrect. I've always had a slight problem with his show on Real Time with Bill Maher. There's always somebody that will say something, and another person or another two people might make a great point or, add something onto it or, kind of bring up a counterpoint or rebuttal to that point. But a lot of times the intended audience or the intended person that should be making the critique is not on the panel. Let me give you a quick example. 2 weeks ago, he had a discussion about, in which the guy's out of the running now, but Stephen Moore possibly being the head of the Federal Reserve. And it was Bill Maher and the other men on the panel. It was their assumption and their belief that what Stephen Moore had said regarding women was not a disqualifier for him to be the head of the Federal Reserve. There was not one woman on that panel that could say, well, no, it is, because unfortunately, women make up over half of the country and they spend their money. And if someone has this prejudice towards over half of the country that spends their money, they may start to write and enact policies that will hurt those people. So the way he feels about women is absolutely on the table. I'm glad that he dropped out or whatever happened, so we don't have to contend with that. But everybody knows whoever Trump puts up next is going to be as bad, if not a hell of a lot worse. So that's the reason why I'm doing these reviews. And anytime he has a show where I hear something that has gone unchecked and unchallenged, me and my subscribers, we are going to check it and we are going to challenge it every time. Because real time is real time, and this is where we're living. And if you can't deal with that, I think that's one of the problems that Bill Maher has. Because he is a white man, he has a hard time taking himself out of that and understanding other people. He was one of the first political people after the election to start trying to run towards, oh, well, we got to try to embrace the Trump voter. We need to understand the Trump voter. We got to get middle America. Instead of saying, okay, you know what? There's a lot of Democrats who did not come out. We need to find a way to motivate them to get out and to vote, which is what most liberals and most progressives went that way. That's how we ended up with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. That's how we ended up with those progressive women in the Congress, because real progressives, our idea is not to try to run and figure out a way to catch up to a group of people that perhaps do not want to be caught up to, number one. That's the first thing. Some of these people, they're never going to vote for a Democrat. It doesn't matter if if Democrats turn 180 degrees and have the total thing, or every policy that a Republican has. Some of these people in quote-unquote middle America, quote-unquote middle-class voters, quote-unquote independents, some of these people are never, ever, ever, ever. It's just not going to happen. They are never going to vote by anybody with a D by their name. Now, I'm not saying that we should dismiss people. We should try to get as many votes as we can, and we should talk to everybody. But what I do suggest is this. We already have a large swath of people in our party. I think it would be more worthwhile to go after them and encourage them to come out and vote, because that's the issue. One group of people, a smaller group of people, make sure to get out and vote, and they're making it harder and harder for the larger group of people to vote, and then those that can still don't. Okay? So that's why we're talking about this. So one of the first things I wanted to comment on is Bill's whole thing with this ageism situation. He keeps trying to compare ageism to racism, to sexism, and to homophobia, and to some other types of, isms and schisms. Here's why Bill Maher is wrong about ageism. Not everyone is born a female. Not all people are born gay. Not all people are born black, Latino. Not all people are born into Muslim families. However, everyone is born with a date and a birth date. Everyone has an age, period, until the day you die. We have an age, okay? And I agree with Annie Leibovitz on this. Fran Lebowitz, excuse me, on this. Thinking of the other woman. I agree with Fran Lebowitz on this. Age is something that should be considered. Yeah, there's lots of extraordinarily healthy older people. Shoot, my mom is one of them. That lady gets around like ain't nobody's business. She gets around much better than a lot of the 20 and 30-year-olds that I know. But your age is still your age, and biology is still biology. And for someone who considers himself to be so smart about things, especially concrete evidential facts, I can't believe he's trying to make these comparisons. That is the most silly and stupid comparison that I think that he could be trying to make. Ageism is not... Yeah, people are discriminated against because of their age, and I don't think that they should be. So I'm not saying that it's okay to discriminate based upon age. What I am, however, saying is to stop trying to conflate age with race or gender or religion, because these things, all the three latter things I mentioned, these are things that by and large you cannot change and you cannot help. Most of us that were raised Christian, we continue to be Christian. People that were raised Muslim, by and large, continue to practice in that faith. If you were born in black skin, you're going to die in black skin. If you were born an Asian person, you'll die an Asian person. If you were born a woman, more than likely you'll die a woman, unless you're a transgender person. And even that is something different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about age is not the same as these other things, because everyone has one, and no one can do anything about it. So I do think it's worth looking into. I totally disagree with Bill Maher on that. This discussion about the crowded field of Democratic candidates right now, it's up to 23. I don't mind that there being so many candidates, because the truth of the matter is most of the candidates are talking the same language. Most of them have a similar platform with just different ways to go about it, or modifications as to how large or how small their vision should be. But all of them are talking the same language. We're talking about getting back to constitutionality and getting back to a rule of law and getting back to a president that respects our Constitution, actually has respect for the work of our founders and respect for the work of the other separate but equal branches of government. That's what we're talking about. So with there being a lot of candidates in the field, we already know a lot of these people are just doing this, like they already said it on Bill Maher. A lot of these folks are just trying to get book deals. They're, like Herman Cain did when he was running. Shucky Ducky didn't really have any plan to be a president. He just wanted to shell some books and possibly set himself up for a seat in the future administration, which he did. That's what a lot of these people are doing. They're just trying to set themselves up for a future seat should a Democrat take the White House. That's it, and that's all that they're doing on that, okay? I do agree with something Mr. George Packer said on this panel tonight. I hope that whoever the nominee is, should it not be your guy or gal, I hope that we will not have a repeat of what we did in 2016 with a lot of protest votes. That is the difference between Republicans and between Democrats. A lot of Republicans cannot stand Trump because they know who he is. They know he's a fraud and a total fugazi. But they have an agenda, which is to place conservatives on House legislatures and the Circuit of Appeals courts, and certainly on this Supreme Court. And as long as there's an R next to your name and you're saying you're going to do that, they're going to vote for you. It doesn't matter if they like you, love you, hate you. They could care less. They're going to vote for you. I hope that Democrats become more narrow-minded that way. Sometimes it's kind of good to be narrow of mind. And that might be one way that Democrats might want to start closing up and closing ranks. So if your guy or gal does not get the nomination, let us please not take our ball and go home and not vote for anyone or do a third-party vote, or we would definitely be looking at another Trump presidency. And with how unhinged he is and with how little that the Republicans seem to care about our democracy, I don't see anything stopping him from trying to change the Constitution, or from him trying to enact a new law that would allow him to be president for much longer than 8 years. He has a whole lot of reasons to do that. He's under a lot of investigations, both federally and in New York. Conventional wisdom says that we do not indict or arrest a sitting president. I wish conventional wisdom was not so conventional in this case, because he has done multiple things that, in my assessment, have risen to the level of treason. And yet he gets to go on. So I do agree I do agree with that. I hope that the Democrats, no matter who your person is, anybody with a D next to their name, it doesn't matter. We have to get a better long-term goal and plan, and a long game. Now, the thing about Elizabeth Warren not wanting to go on Fox News, I get her points entirely, because I do believe that they're just trying to use this. They've lost a lot of advertisers, and they've lost a lot of revenue. And even though they are the #1 rated cable news network, let's understand some of why that is. There is almost not an airport that you can go into in all of America where Fox News is not on the TV. Fox News is the standard news in a lot of places that you go to, and it's not just in rural or middle America. I know personally a lot of people who love the news and who were totally liberal and Democratic voters, and they watch Fox News. So their audience is not necessarily a monolith. But I also don't see why everyone has to go and do a town hall on Fox News. And they're trying to make this a point, where Donald Trump already is a president like that, and we don't want to be like him. Well, you know what? It seems to be a working strategy for him. He's identified his audience, he's sticking with them, and he's digging his heels in with them. And it seems to work. I'm not sure if it'll work the same way for a Democratic person, because, well, our party has a much larger tent, and there's many more people within this party to satisfy. And saying one or two things is not going to get you there. Maybe is she missing an opportunity to reach some voters that we might have previously thought that were unreachable? It's a possibility. It's a possibility. It really, really is. But it's also a possibility that she'll just go on there and do her town hall, and all the people watching are just people who followed her from other platforms. Warren supporters. I don't know. This is, we've not ever dealt with anything like this in our country, so I'm not sure how this is going to play out in the long term. I know I would like our country to be the United States of America and not the United States of red or the United States of blue, but I'm not entirely convinced or sure that going on Fox News is a good inroad to making that happen. We'll find out. We'll find out in the primaries, and we'll find out during the general election if any of that made any bit of a difference. So, Bill Maher's final guest on tonight's show was a man by the name of Jonathan Metzl. I've never seen him, never heard of him, but I really, really enjoyed his time on the show today, and I'm definitely going to be getting a copy of his book, Dying of Whiteness. Now, back in, I think it was about 2000, well, it was sometime a little after 2012, I believe. Joan Walsh, if you guys know who that is, Joan Walsh wrote a book called What's the Matter with White People? Now, I have not read this man's book, Dying of Whiteness, but based upon his interview and some of the things that he was talking about, it seems like to me their books actually are very, very close aligned and really kind of support one another. This is something that a lot of people have been saying for a long time, and folks don't like to hear it, like Bill Maher was talking about. People don't want to hear about their privilege, and they're going through things. They're going through shit because they don't see their privilege while they're going through shit. But seeing your own privilege takes an ability to be objective and to look outside yourself and to look at other people, especially if you're a white man, to look at minorities. You know that you do not face the same rates of being stopped, of being followed around the store, of being stereotyped and have people, lock their cars when you walk by them. You don't have that same, you don't have to deal with those same fears. Now, I will say that the tide is turning on that because so much has been going on, and now that some bad behavior of people is being called out, these people do not like to be lumped into this group. It's like I was saying before, you're fine with supporting racist policies and you're fine with racist rhetoric, but you do not want to be called a racist. You don't want to be called a bigot. You don't want anyone to accuse you of being prejudiced, but yet everything that you support falls in line with those beliefs. This man, Mr. Metzl, was saying that white men have the highest rate of death by suicide by means of gun, and a portion of that has to do with their access to them in these rural states where there's open carry and not a whole lot of regulations surrounding that. And the other part of it is that as everyone in the country has done worse. Over the last 30 years, there's been a real long and heavy wave. It's really been longer than 30 years. It's really been closer to 40. Wages have gone down. They've stagnated. They're not nearly on pace to be where they need to be. And the way that people keep others from voting what's best for them is by telling them, well, if you vote for this, you're not going to be the one who ends up getting it. It's going to go to those other people. Because you know how those other people do. They just get in your face and they just take your place in line and take everything you ever worked for. And that is the reason why some of these voters in rural areas continue to, as the saying is, cut their nose to spite their face. I really look forward to reading this man's book because everything he said is what I have been talking about ever since 2008. Most of the people that were concerned about the Affordable Care Act already didn't have decent health insurance. They had a $5,000 deductible. Do you know what that is to have a $5,000 deductible? That means before your insurance will start paying a penny of your bill, you must meet a $5,000 deductible. By the way, that's not over the lifetime of your plan, that is per year. Well, if you get sick and need to go to the hospital or something like that, how much you think that bill's gonna run you? Because I can tell you it's not gonna cost you $5,000. It's not going to cost you that, and you're going to have to pay all that out of your pocket. Then, not only that, with those types of plans, those high deductible plans, there was also a very large co-insurance of 50% and sometimes even more, depending upon what kind of plan you had. Listen, I worked in healthcare for a very long time for several major companies. You are not going to tell me anything about this healthcare debate. I can guarantee you on that. Anything you think you know, I can refute it in 10 different ways. Health insurance in this country has been a real bear of a bitch. It needs to be dealt with, and the Affordable Care Act is the closest that we have come, besides from Medicare and Medicaid, to closing these gaps. I hope that the work continues and we continue to go on, but a large reason why a lot of these Republican states were okay with not getting that Medicaid expansion is because they were afraid that it was going to go to somebody other that they did not think of as worthy of that sort of help. And it's sad for me to see that because of the way that people have voted, that they are the ones that's being impacted. That they're the ones that are being impacted greatliest. They're the ones that are being most impacted by the choices. Life expectancy is way down. Birth mortality rates are way up. The birth rates period are down. You know, people are not having children like they used to. You know, we have a lot of things in this country to reconcile and to fix. And I am one that believes in order to fix anything, you know, it's got to be done. It's got to be done with some surgical type precision. We got to cut in there and find out where the tumor is. So yeah, tonight's show was really good. They had a really good panel on, you know, so I really enjoyed the debate, and I'm always yelling at the screen from my whichever room I may find myself in watching the show. And that's why I really wanted to make this video, so I could just kind of get some of these thoughts off my mind and, you know, everything like that before everybody I end up talking to for the rest of the night or tomorrow has to hear this like a million times. So hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. Please leave your thoughts and your comments down below. I appreciate all the thumbs up, the thumbs down, whichever way. As long as you let me know how you feel about it, then I'm good with that. So with all that said, that's it and that's all.